Name the topic OGNL expressions. Okay. Object graph notation language. Actually OGNL expression support we have in Spring also. Spring 3 onwards they given this OGNL expression support. Okay. So if you feel comfort here, then in Spring also you can do it. Just go through my clips. Just I'll send data from UI page and I'll keep that data into multiple scopes. One scope is class instance level scope, one scope is request, and one is value stack, one is session, and one is context. From this all scopes, just I will try to retrieve data. Okay. Yeah. Just I'll go through Notepad. First create input page @tag library URI /struts tags prefix with simple HTML. Then create a form here HTML : form action simple registration close HTML : form, and the input parameters HTML : text field, text field name is name and the label name is name. Text field name email and one more text field name address. Keep label names cleared. Name email, name address, and along with these labels keep here one submit button HTML : submit and the value something registered. And finally, yeah, write one controller for this one public class something registration controller extends from action support. Then here create some class instance level variables private string name email address. These are class instance level values, and write here getters and setters. Write setter and getters here. Let us write one validate method if you required, or else you can go through annotations. Okay. Finally write a execute method public execute method return value compulsory it should be string, and here it always it used to throws exception, and here keep this data into value stacks and request scopes. Okay. There is one class servlet action context, use this servlet action context dot get servlet request, and it will provide us a HTTP servlet request object. It depends on your servlet type. HTTP servlet request. Now in case value stack object if you required here, value stacks object if you required here, use servlet action context dot get value stack. Into this value stack you need to give input request, and finally it will return as value stack. In case if you required session, using request also you can get, right? Request dot there is one method get session. Using that request also we can get HTTP session object. HTTP session we can get HTTP session using request object request dot get session. Okay. If you required servlet context object, using session also we can get servlet context object, right? Okay. Servlet action context dot get servlet context, it will return as servlet context object. Okay. Go through my clips, create a project, file, new, dynamic web project, name it OGNL, finish. Object graph notation language. Okay. Then configure here, right click and add struts capabilities. Go to my clips, project facets, add struts2. Select next, URL pattern required pattern slash start, and select dozos if you require. Finally finish it. Yeah, create one input page, index.jsp page. Create this form there. Yeah. Create your input form here by importing tag library struts tags prefix with HTML. Yeah, HTML form, registration and form parameters. Registered. Yeah. Now here write one controller class src new package. Create a controller package and write a controller class here. In that controller, just I'll go through multiple scopes. Registration controller. Extend it from action support. Okay, here go through private string name, class instance level fields, name, email address. Generate getters and setters. Generate getters and setters. First just generate setters. Go to source, generate only setters. On top of setters you can configure annotations for validations. For simple name you can configure required string validator and the required message. Name is required. For email, email is required. And for email you can apply one more annotation @email validator. In case email format if it is wrong, you can send this message. Email is having wrong format. Email ID have wrong format. Email ID is wrong email format. Yeah. And coming to address. For address use again required string message. Address is required. Yeah, that's it. Finally override execute method here. Override execute method. In that execute method use multiple scopes here. Use multiple scopes. So how to create that all scopes? There is one class servlet action context dot get servlet request. It will return as Jdbc servlet request object here. And if you require any HTTP session, current HTTP session if you require here, HS equal to servlet action context dot there is no get session method. Okay, for session you can go through request also, right? Request dot get session if you call your current session object, it will return. Okay, and if you require value stack object here, value stack is equal to servlet action context dot get value stack. You require to pass required request input to get value stack, and here you can get servlet context object also. Servlet context. How many objects we can expect for application? You can expect here one single servlet context object. Servlet action context dot get servlet context. In this way you can get all these scopes. So now in all these scopes, just I'll keep my data, name, email, address data I will put here. In request scope put data, request dot set attribute of request scope underscore name, keep name here. request scope underscore email, keep email here, request scope underscore address, put address here, and if you require session, in place of request use session here, hs dot set attribute, here keep session scope data, session name, session scope email, session scope address. Next use servlet context scope. Instead of using this session scope, go through here context scope, servlet context, sext dot set attribute. Keep here context, context name, context email and context address. Finally values tags. Into values tags also you need to put key value pair only. So for that key value pair you need to create a map object. Map m equal to new hash map. Then m dot put off key and value. So your required key, map scope or else values tag, vs underscore name, values tag scope name, values tag scope email, values tag scope address. Finally return a success page. Now create a success page, access all the scopes data here, create a success page, success.jsp, create a success page, success.jsp. Here access all the scopes data here, one by one. How many scopes we have here? Almost value stack, one is servlet context, one is session and one is request and one is instance. Okay, 5 scopes we have. From that 5 scopes read data here. First one from class instance. From class instance if you want to access data here, how we can access? Use simple dollar expression or hash expression. Okay, we have name, we have name here, email, address, and we have request scope data, request scope data. Here you can read request scope data also directly. Here you can give request underscore name, request underscore email, request underscore address. And again here we have one more scope, session. If it is a session scope, session dot name, session dot email, session dot address, and we have one more scope, context scope. So get that context scope data here. For context the key is what? sext, context name, context email and context address, and finally we have value stack. Value stack data, vs name, vs email, vs address. Now provide mappings here between your index.jsp page and controller. The action name is reg and the controller name is registration controller. Go to struts XML file, keep the actions here. The package name controller or default controller, extends struts default, and here action, registration, and controller class name controller dot reg controller. Then here we have validations. Validations always they used to return result input, and the page name is index.jsp, and one more result success, return success.jsp. Finally, run this. Start Tomcat. Request here HTTP colon localhost 9595/OGNL. Yeah, here is our form. Where is the label named? Wrong label names we are using. Label, LABEL. Okay, now name, email, address. Pass name, email, address from here. Name is required, email is required, address is required. Still, name value giving here, right? Okay, here to populate that previous form data we require getter methods. Only we have setters. To populate previous form data we require getters also here. Okay, keep getters. Yeah, once again redeploy. Restart manually. Yeah, OGNL completed. Yeah, name is there, and email wrong email format. Enter a valid email. Finally, address is required. See this, all scopes data, class instance level data, request scope data, here is session scope data, context scope data. Where is value stack? We are not getting value stack data, right? So why we are not getting here? We created a map object, but that map object we didn't inject it into stack. See here, map object we need to put into what? Stack. vs dot push. Keep your map object into value stack. Then redeploy it. Now value stack data also we can make available. Load same form, name, email, address. Now you can see value stack data also here. Okay. Finally, we are getting, by using simple OGNL expressions, complete action context data. From action context, what we can make available? Class instance level, request to session, context, value stacks. Okay, all these 5 scopes we can use here. Okay, from 5 scopes, by using a simple expression we can read. But in case of servlets, for every scope, from each scope, if you want to read your values, you have to use JSP expressions. Using JSP expression, request dot get attribute method we should call. Okay, all the times it is not possible to write that much code, right? If I have a simple expression, these simple expressions I can use for any other like JSP technologies. Like we have JSP, we have free marker, and we have some velocity kind of tools. So in the tools also, these simple expressions you can include. Okay, anywhere you can include the simple expressions to get your complete context data. Once again, see here. This is class instance level data, and here these keys are request keys. Okay, here you can go through dollar expression or hash expression. You can use anyone. Okay, you can go through hash expressions also here. Hash also you can use. Dollar or hash, both are allowed here. Okay, you can go through any expressions. This is what value stacks and OGNL expressions.